All right, y'all. Welcome back to another edition of Collector's Market Watch, where we talk about all things Lorcana from a collector's perspective. That means enchanteds, sealed product, and promo cards. And we have an absolutely massive episode for y'all this week, as I'm sure you can imagine, fresh off the heels of our first ever Lorcana World Championships concluding this past weekend. We're going to dive into World Championships, Season 2, the future state of Lorcana, what it means from a collectability perspective, what you can expect going forward. Also a couple other things that are moving markets as well. But before we do that, y'all, it would mean a lot to me if you'd consider scrolling down and hitting that subscribe button. We do Market Watch content on the channel every Tuesday, and we do pack opening content every Sunday and every Thursday. Also, make sure to go down and join the Discord, get in the conversation. Link is down below in the description. And with all that out of the way, let's dive into what is going to be an absolutely jam-packed episode. And I want to start out by giving a huge congratulations to my guy DKP for being the first ever Lorcana World Champion. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go into too much of what's going on from a gameplay perspective, but what I will say, y'all, is I am somebody who loves anything competition, sport. Like all of us growing up, we all had those hobbies, might have played sports, might have played games, just any type of competition. And I can tell you, when you come back from being down in the finals of anything and you come back to win that deciding game, there's just something special about that, man. So congratulations to you. And with a broom deck of all things, man. I mean, again, I don't know too much about deck building, but I know that I've been seeing brooms and goats for like over a year now. So my guy, huge ups to you. Where I do want to start out is actually a photo that was posted, I believe, from DKP himself, showing off what's inevitably looking like it's going to go into this binder here. This binder is going to be worth a lot of money down the road, but that's beside the point. A couple of huge call outs that I do want to, just at least kind of say to kind of set the scene for what we're going to talk about in today's episode. First and foremost, obviously we see these beautiful whole new world promos in here. Obviously he got these for winning a certain amount of games. We're going to talk about that going forward, and also just from being a contestant, being a competitor in the actual competition, in the actual worlds. And then of course this absolutely beautiful one of one serialized golden Mickey that says world champion on it. And you know what? Just absolutely beautiful stuff. As we go over here and scroll across and we see like kind of how it was displayed. It's the first thing that caught my eye when I saw this on the live stream as I was watching, and I was like, bro, that looks absolutely disgusting. Having this card just like sitting here chilling, it looks like it was meant to almost be cocooned inside of the trophy. That is so sick. Absolutely beautiful. Just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful piece of Lorcana history, and seems like it's going to a great guy. And so that's really cool that he's going to be able to take that home. But let's start top down and start at least dissecting from like a collectability perspective, from an investment and an asset perspective, like what we're looking at here. Look, I'll start out by calling out that for all I know, this card is never going to change hands. It's going to just stay with the same person forever. However, it is fun to kind of play around with the what's possible and at least work through some different theories and different things that could happen. So first of all, looking at the actual card itself, once again, golden serialized Mickey looks very similar to the top 8s that you'll get at the DLCs across all of the entire Season 1. And actually, I didn't go in and scroll through this, but I think that they also gave it out at the World Championships as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyway, the serialized ones are the 1 in 500. Obviously, the big difference with this one is it's going to be the World Champion here. And then, of course, almost impossible to see it here. But obviously, right here, you see the serialized number. It's too blurry with this picture to see it, but it does say 1 of 1 on it. Super, super, super cool to see something like that. Look, the biggest, I guess, comparison or parallel I could draw with a card like this. I mean, we're in uncharted waters here. We're in very, very sparsely swimmed in waters here. But as I was thinking about a certain comparison that I could give to a card like this, really the closest thing that I was able to kind of get to and like hypothesize would be, for all my Yu-Gi-Oh players out there, like, for those of you who are like really embedded and deep in the hobby, and I'll just preface by saying like, I'm deep into the Yu-Gi-Oh hobby, not nearly as deep as I am into the Lorcana hobby, but what I will say is that there are some similarities when you think about, I believe it was the 2003, but it might be 2004. I'm already off to a terrible start, so my Yu-Gi-Oh people, please don't roast me in the comments here, but I know that when we first, received that World Championship, like when those prize cards first started coming out, there was a card by the name of Ulevo that came out that was actually a 1 of 2. There were 2 of these printed. But the difference here is back then in those days, 03, 04, whenever it was, you don't have the social media that you have today. The image that you're seeing of this card that I have on screen here, you would never get something like that, over 20 years ago when you think about, competitive play and like prize cards and stuff like that. It just wasn't as big on the scene. I mean, Pokemon was only a few years in, right? I mean, it just wasn't as prevalent as it is today. It wasn't as documented as it is today. But I do know that from, just reading about things, reading about, pricing, watching certain content, stuff like that, it sounds like that card these days goes for like hundreds of thousands of dollars, 3, 4, maybe even more, hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe up to $500,000. The reason I say that is this. What you are looking at on screen here, and I think I alluded to this months ago. This is all the way back when I was in my old studio talking about random stuff with like Lorcana prize cards and whatnot. But this card, and I alluded to it, I was like, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know. I mean, I never would have thought that it would be an actual, like, similar, replica artwork of the 1 in 8, Golden Mickey, the 1 in 500 serialized. But nevertheless, here we are, and here is that card. And what I will call out and say is that this card, what you're looking at on screen here, is going to be undoubtedly the ultimate holy grail of this hobby. Whether this hobby, continues to, flourish for, years, decades, hopefully even longer into the future, this card is going to be almost impossible to top. And the reason I say that is because it's first of all a one of one, first of its kind. Also, it's from the first ever tournament. And again, like even when you compare it to something like the U-Level from Yu-Gi-Oh, there's 2 of those, right? I mean, I guess in the next World Championship, if they only made 1 card, from a collector standpoint, you could kind of start to pull on the thread of, well, I have something that nobody else has. This checks every box. It's a one of one, right? So, I mean, even next year when they inevitably probably do some sort of Golden Elsa or something like that, again, it's going to be a one of one, but this is the first ever of its kind. So, the reason I say all this is because this is leading us down one of 2 paths. The first path is that DKP himself just keeps his hand on this card forever, passes it down to his kids, maybe their kids after that, and that would be just an absolutely beautiful story, man. And that's great. The second thing that might happen is that he might sell it. And you know what? There's no right, no wrong here in the card. It's his. Like, he can do whatever he wants with it, right? If that is the path that does go down, that we do go down, what I will say is that if that does happen and it goes and exchanges into someone else's hands, you will most likely never see this card again. I mean, this is the kind of thing that eventually, as the hobby grows, progresses, and as a card like this, continues to flourish and gain value, notoriety, it will build itself off of the actual hobby. Y'all, this is the kind of card that this thing will disappear somewhere to some kind of crazy billionaire in Dubai or something like that. And I say that only like 20% jokingly. Like, I'm actually pretty serious. Like, it's probably going to go into the hands of someone like that, and it's just going to be the ultimate trophy and just an absolute prize for somebody to be able to say that they have in their collection. Again, regardless, it's just cool that we're able to know that this is out there somewhere on the planet right now in DKP's hands. And once again, one more big shout out to you, my guy. Congratulations, well deserved, and obviously has us all super excited to get into to the next season, which we will talk about momentarily. But I do also want to call out, and just again say like a huge congrats, a huge big ups to the other 27, I believe, competitors who competed in this tournament. Like, that is not light work, man. I mean, that is extremely, extremely impressive. And by qualifying for the World Championships, you were able to receive this pack of goodies here that basically is all kind of themed around the whole New World promo, which again, we're going to talk about here momentarily. But of course, you do see here first and foremost, you do see the promo card, but you also see other awesome things here. Like, you see the pin, like you see a notebook right here. You also see like, kind of chilling right here, super like kind of subdued. You see like the playmat that's in like this awesome, I don't even know what kind of like cylinder packaging you call that, but super cool nevertheless. But the big call out with the whole New World, 2 big call outs, I guess. The first, let's start with the bad news. The foil version of this whole New World. Most likely, for everybody listening to this right now and going forward in the future, we're not going to get our hands on this card. It's just not going to happen. There will be a non-foil of this card, and we will talk about that momentarily, but the foil version that you're looking at on the screen here, you'll never see this card. At least assuming that they didn't like overprint this into oblivion and they're like sitting on them, which I seriously doubt they're going to do anything like that. I'm sure that they're going to take the necessary precautions with this. But here's the breakdown of this card. This card is going to be right now, at least, I'll throw a dart here. I think I'm at least going to be somewhat close here. There were 28 competitors in the World Championships, right? Everybody gets one guaranteed just by making it in, right? From there, you also receive another one if you win at least 5 matches. I think if I go back and look, I thought I saw that there were 5 competitors who won 5 matches. That's another 5 whole new worlds that are going to get passed out. We're now up to 33 whole new worlds. Even if my math is totally off on that and it's either 36 or it's like 50, somehow I'm just totally off on that, right? There's a few dozen of these cards out there floating around in the ethos, okay? That makes it almost impossible from a price perspective to think that you'll ever get your hands on one of those unless you actually competed for and won one of those. However, I will call out that the difference between the whole new world and the one-of-one Mickey, the one-of-one Mickey, it's like we are totally at the mercy of what the owner of that card wants to do, like any one-of-one, right? It's like whatever you want to do with it, it's like that's going to be what drives the future of that market, right, of that card, right? It's just one person making the decision, and rightfully so. It's up to that person. They've earned that right. But with the whole new world promos, it's a little bit different because now you're dealing at least with the broader spectrum, a wider pool of individual owners of the card who are going to be able to do something with this card. So what I will say is that I do think that for all I know, it could be like tomorrow. At time of this recording, I did a quick glance. I didn't see any of them posted. I wouldn't imagine that. They're probably all still traveling back from Worlds and stuff like that. It could be where this week you see one surface. However, even if you don't see one surface right now, I do think this is the kind of thing that there'll be kind of like these like blue moon situations where you do see one surface. However, I don't know if you're gonna, this might not be the kind of thing that you're gonna see surface on eBay. This is more than likely gonna be the type of thing that you see surface on like an actual proper auction house. I'm talking about like something like Golden Auctions or something like that. Biggest reason for that is because when you deal with a card that is of this quality, this value, like you start out by thinking about like the 1 in 500 serialized Golden Mickey, right? Those things at the start were going for like, PSA 10s and CGC pristines, going for like 20 grand and stuff like that, 15 grand, like super expensive, right? Now you're dealing with something that is quite literally less than 10% of those out there compared to that Mickey, right? That's the kind of thing that's going to go for like 6 figures more than likely on the open market. Just a very difficult thing to it's a difficult thing to move on your own. It's a very tough to do on your own. And I mean, that's the kind of thing that leads to like, exchanges in parking lots and stuff like that. Sketchy stuff that's happened before. It'll probably happen again. But it's risky. I mean, obviously you can do it, but it's risky. And obviously eBay and, other secondary markets are a great platform to do something like that. However, when you're dealing with an asset that's that valuable, typically you'll find that you're willing to take the massive cut, and it is a huge bite out of the apple to have someone like a Golden or someone like that do it for you. But the downside with that is like, yeah, I mean, it is like you get taxed like crazy. I mean, I'm not sure. I've never actually done anything off Golden, but I'm pretty sure it's like 30-40%. That's what they take of the sale of it. However, you do guarantee that you're going to have a proper exchange, right? So I do think, like, again, whether it's eBay, one might surface on the secondary side of things, or whether it's a Golden, I do think that eventually you're going to see one of these surface because there's enough of them that someone's just going to make that choice, right? No different than what we just talked about with DKP with the one-of-one, right? There's going to be a few dozen folks out there who competed who are going to say, like, there's going to be a couple who are like, yeah, I'd like to sell it. Like that's the choice that they make. And like, again, big ups to you, man. You deserve it. Like you earned it, right? So I do think you will see that card, surface. It'll be super interesting to get like some actual data on it and see what it goes for. Super fascinating on that side of things, but that's probably kind of pretty pie in the sky. I want to start going in even deeper now and talking about things that are actually going to be things that like you and I might be able to get our hands on, like whether we compete for them or purchase them on the secondary markets, because Lorcana did announce, among other things that we're going to talk about, they did announce that they will have season 2 prizing similar to how they did with season 1 with the Rapunzel and the Cinderella and the Let It Go and all of those different things. So here is what you're seeing on screen here is the day 1 prizing for season 2. And the biggest, I guess, 2 callouts that I would make here is, of course, I'm gonna kind of put these into 2 different boxes here. The first box is going to be our Mulan and our Simba. Here you see Mulan is going to be a 5-round win. You do get to, have your hands on one of those. And then if you finish top 64, similar to the Cinderella Stout-Hearted, the Simba kind of falls into that slot. Very similar on those 2 side of things. Really, as of right now, I don't have too many updates on that because of the other side that I want to talk about. And y'all might be thinking to yourself, like, Ink, why in the world are we talking and dissecting the participation card? But this Baby Pegasus card is actually very fascinating from a collectability perspective. The reason being is like, if I were to throw a dart right now and tell you like, like if you said like, Ink, how much is this card going to be worth? What do you think? Is it going to be like the Dragonfire? Like, what do you think? My answer is I absolutely don't know. I don't think any of us know at the time of this recording. And the reason why I say that is because the one thing that we do know, the one piece of data that we do have at time of this recording is we do know, like, let's boil it down, okay? We'll take it from a North American perspective, because that is where a lot of my audience is focused. And obviously, you can use this same logic for like, there'll be one in Germany and things like that. But we'll just take it from a North American perspective because a lot of y'all are listening from North America right now. But the logic works the same way across the globe. There are going to be 3 events, 3 DLCs held in North America. I believe it's Indianapolis, Milwaukee, and Virginia. I think Richmond. I believe those are the 3. Nevertheless, 3 events. However, even though there are less events than Season 1, and I know, and believe me, there's a lot of chatter going on in the Discord if you want to get in there and sound off on that, or you want to read about it, what folks are saying in the Discord, feel free to do that. There's good conversation going on in there. But the consensus is like there's disappointment, right? That there's less events in North America. That's a whole other can of worms we're not really going to get into today. But nevertheless, the one thing we don't know, we have no idea what they're going to cap the number of competitors at. But what we do know is that by participating in the event, by signing up and going to the event, you get that card, right? So like it could be 2,000 people and they cap it. It could be 10,000 and they cap it. It could be unlimited. We have no idea. And you might say to yourself, yeah, but at the same time, we can somehow dissect like a 5-round win getting the Mulan. We can start to like, peel the onion back and figure out like how many people might be in that. Again, like all speculation at that point. We have no idea. For all we know, it's going to be, the first day you just qualify to get into where you can compete for a 5-round win because there's so many competitors. We have no idea. The reason I'm saying this, and I know that we're talking about like the least expensive out of all the cards. However, it is the one that is like the most up in the air, the biggest question mark right now. This could be a $10 promo. This could be a $100 promo. We have no idea, but it is very, very fascinating when you do think about things like that and how it will move a market going forward. The other big call out that I wanted to call out just from the prize wall perspective as we kind of work our way through the list. Again, it sounds like they're going to do very similarly where there's going to be side events, games you can play, other side games that you can play. And I'm sure Infinity format will be a part of that, which will be super, super cool to hear people playing Infinity. That'll be absolutely sick. But interestingly enough, you do see here, of course we have our playmats here. We have our non-foil promo cards. And then we have our other non-foil promo cards. But actually what's really interesting here and what I do want to call out, it's probably just above my head right here on the screen, but like, you do see the Dragonfire and you see the Let It Go promos that are also going to be available on the prize wall for Season 2. Nice little heads up. I don't know if they meant to do this or not, but at least in my opinion, super good heads up move from Ravensburger, from Lorcana, kind of setting these cards up the way that they're set up. Because if you look right here, this like little like it kind of has like this tan line or whatever down the bordering of it, kind of signifying the Season 2 cards. Looking at those for the Dragonfire and the Let It Go promos, this is going to specifically kind of give us a distinction between Season 1 and Season 2. I will say that the Dragonfire promo and the Let It Go promo, especially the Let It Go, they're both foiled anyway, and it looks like these are non-foils. However, they're doing a very nice job, very much distinguishing the difference of the two, which is really, really cool. I do like that they look very different from Season 1 to Season 2. This is going to be good, especially from a collector's perspective. I can tell y'all, I have a Season 1, promo binder, right? That's how I'm going to organize it because I don't really know any other way to do it. I think that's going to probably be the best way to really start organizing things going forward is by seasons. And so it's just going to be nice to be able to kind of have that sort of distinction between the seasons and things like that. So super cool on that side of things. And then finally, of course, just as a shout out, going, through top 32 all the way down to first place, the Elsa Ice Maker is going to be in place, of course, of the Rapunzel Gifted with Healing. And then you have the playmat. I'm sure it's a foil playmat, which I got to tell you, this playmat looks absolutely sick. I'm sure that the foiling, it's going to be a foil playmat again. the ice around it, the glitter, that looks sick. That looks so cool. I'm down for it. I'm all about it. That'll be really cool to see on that side of things. And then, pretty standard here. It looks like top 8 going to be very similar, where they're going to make another wave of Golden Mickey Brave Little Tailors. It'll be interesting. I mean, there's 500 made. I'll be honest, I don't really have in my head the back of the napkin math of like I have 500 been given out from season 1, and they're going to make another, like there's going to be another 500, and it'll be like, will there be a 2 next to it to distinguish that, from a serialized perspective? Like, I have no idea. That is interesting to me, though. That's very interesting. I do want to see what comes of that. More details will come on that as things come out. And then, obviously super cool to get things like uncut sheets. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you dream about as a collector. So, super, super, super cool stuff there. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about, at least from the future of like the future Grail cards, promo cards, prize cards, all of that stuff. That they did announce at the World Championships. And I do want to go into the market here to talk about a couple of things. And it's actually interesting. Looking at this Elsa Ice Maker immediately gave me the thought to briefly do a once over of the Anna Icebreaker card, which is a Disney Lorcana promo card from Arcasia's Island, similar to the Elsa Ice Maker. Both of those two cards are cards that you can pull in their normal rarities in Arcasia's Island. Biggest call out I'll make on this, obviously you see as we start to scroll down here and start working our way into the markets a little bit, you see average retail price around $55, which is quite expensive for a promo card. And you also see only 4 listings and lowest verified coming in at $48. The biggest call out that I want to talk about, just at least with the with the Anna Icebreaker, is that when we think about the idea of like whenever you see a promo card, especially right now, because there's so many Lorcana promos that are going between like $1 and $5. Why is this one so expensive? This is going to be a classic like fork in the road. I'm sure some of you listening to this right now know exactly what I'm going to say. Some of you are like, why the heck is this card so expensive? You are the group who I'm talking to right now. For the reason why this card is so expensive, it was really mainly only released in Europe. Now at this point, there's been others that have made their way into the US. And I mean, obviously you can purchase it through like US secondary markets and stuff like that. The biggest reason I'm calling this out is that like, I would imagine that we're not going to see much more of this being printed, especially with season 1 kind of like being in the books. I'm kind of imagining us like once Fabled comes out, like we are really going to start to cross over into that season 2 of like really drawing that line of the sand of like, I don't know how much you're going to see stuff from season 1 surface in season 2 from like a reprint or like extra stock perspective. Again, like the Dragonfire promo and the Let It Go promo that like have the beige band at the bottom of them, like those are proper season 2 cards. Like, so yes, they're going to reuse artworks, and of course with Fabled coming out, like they're going to reuse artworks all over the place. That's good. We want that. But something like this exact card, like, continuing to surface, like finding more of it, I'd say the odds are pretty low that that's going to be the case. That being said, probably means that it's a pretty darn short printed promo. The only reason I'm saying this is like, as you start to look to pick this card up for your collection, the biggest call out that I would make here is just do your due diligence from the perspective of where you're picking it up from. If you live in North America, there are plenty floating around now on secondary markets that you can pick up from North America, so that you're not buying them from across the pond and paying like $40 in shipping for like something that's worth like something that's like the weight of like 2 ounces or something like that. Same thing on the Europe side, right? Europe is going to be a lot easier because it originated from there, but same thing. Just make sure you're focused on the shipping side of things, because honestly, like you should be able to have the shipping pretty baked in if you're buying it. Like if you're in North America, you buy it, like it should be pretty baked in. Pay something like $55, free shipping, or whatever. Like, I mean, but still, just make sure you don't get hooked for that shipping. That's the big thing that I would say. But this is a really, really, really cool promo. Really interesting and really fun part of Lorcana history. And I do think long term, this is one of those promos that will kind of be infamous, and it will be looked at as like, whoa, that is like, there's a great story behind it. Why is it like so tough to, why is it so tough to get? Why is it so expensive? Like, this is one of those special times right now where you do have the ability to kind of take advantage of the opportunity and get your hands on this. So just wanted to at least call out the Anna Icebreaker. Also want to call out the Stitch Experiment 626. And I want to call this card out for 2 reasons. Okay, the first one, like, let's just work our way through the numbers here and just at least call this out. So working our way through, you have average market price coming in just south of $200 of $194. Working our way through, seeing lowest verified coming in at $1. $90. Now, the biggest reason why I want to call this out, or sorry, the first reason I want to call this out, not the biggest, but definitely the first reason I want to call this out is because the price chart and the market history of the card is now like working. Like the last time I showed this card, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I think it was also like cover of my thumbnail, like I wasn't able to show the pricing of it, like, or the market trending of it. But anyway, I want to be able to just get back on here and show that this card is absolutely popping in price, floating up here. Like it has just been absolutely on wings. Now, obviously some of that is because, like, look, it could be a playable card, but also a lot of it could have to do with the fact that the Lilo and Stitch movie is out. Kind of just, a very interesting time in the market for any type of Stitch. That's the first reason I want to call this card out. However, the second reason I want to call this card out is because I want to start working our way into what is realistically going to be kind of the final topic that we talk about for today's episode. But it's a big one, and it's one that I know that a lot of y'all have been clamoring that, you wanted me to talk about, ever since the weekend where they did talk about things from, like a first chapter perspective and things like that. Just as a call out to put things in perspective for y'all, this Stitch is coming in at $195 right now, like for like average market price. If we go into the first chapter price guide and look at the different enchanteds for, mind you, the first ever set in Lorcana, right now, that Stitch is more expensive than every card but 4 in the first chapter set, which means that the Stitch from the most recent set, a contemporary enchanted rare, is more expensive than 2/3 of the enchanteds from the first ever set in Lorcana. And it's also very interesting to call out that it's not that far behind its original, like, I don't want to say, like, we'll call max rarity enchanted counterpart. Obviously, you have the enchanted promo Rockstar Stitch, but not the Carefree Surfer. But anyway, you have the first edition D23 promo, you have the enchanted promo Rockstar Stitch. Obviously, both of those two outpacing this card. But like from a retail enchanted perspective, it's only like $25, $30 behind this card. I mean, that to me, that there is something sort of off with that. And I actually think typically, like, it's one thing or another. I actually kind of think it's both. I actually kind of think that the contemporary Stitch is probably high, and this Stitch is probably being undervalued in the market right now. But super interesting to call that out, or at least from what I saw. And the reason also why I want to call that out is because when we look at the first chapter from a booster box price perspective, we have now officially gone into the realm of being underneath $300 on TCG Player, lowest verified listing coming in at $297. Now, the reason why, to me, this is very fascinating, and this is like, I'm just going to call this a moment. This is just a moment in hobby history, in collecting history, in Lorcana history right now for all of y'all listening, asking yourself, like, is there ever a good time, to pick something up? Like, should I be picking something up? Obviously, everybody's on their own journey. Everybody's coming at it from different perspectives. What you care about collecting, what you can afford, what again, you need to do what's right for you. But I'm going to just laying out what's right in front of us here. This set is continuing to go down in price. But for whatever the reason, it's continuing to go down in price, even though there was just news released from World Championships over the weekend. That, to me, it sounds like, and I'm sure some of y'all would agree with this, that it sounds like we're about to have the first chapter as well as the first 4 sets in Lorcana be out of print. And it sounds like that because as we go through here, we see here, on the official website, we see TCG first chapter booster boxes available for a limited time. Essentially, there's a raffle lottery that you can get in. They call it EQLs, but really what it is, it's a raffle to be able to go in and get your hands on a first chapter booster box. What is interesting here in the details is that it says right here, please note that this will be the last chance to purchase these products. That seems pretty foreshadowing to me. Also, as I scroll down, it kind of says here, it says, whether you missed the first few sets or need to fill out your collection, get these exciting products before they are gone. To me, that is like, it's not black and white, but it's pretty cut and dry that we are headed towards towards these going out of print. And I'm telling you, the moment that happens, like there will be a moment where the market prices that in. And I don't know where, I'm not going to begin to speculate where we're going from a price perspective with those, but what I can pretty much call is that we're not going to be going down anymore. Like, we're going to start going up. Obviously, cards will be reprinted. You can play these in infinity and all that good stuff. But just, y'all, keep your eyes on the fact that, again, eventually there's going to be that moment where, we do start to hockey stick the other way. This is a pretty unique moment right now for something that's about to go out of print. That's the first ever set. And you know what? Not even that. There's also Floodborn, Inklands, Ursula's Return. All of those with their own respect. Like, I'm not sitting here saying like those are going to equal out first chapter or anything like that. But I do think similar to when we did the live stream, we heard the live stream back in May, where we were going to start doing reprints of things, have set rotation, things like that. You did start to see sets 1 through 4. We did an episode on it where consistently everything was going down in sets 1 through 4. All the meta cards, like everything from like a Diablo to a big Sisu to all of those cards, everything's starting to go down because we are headed towards those cards not being able to be played in anything besides Infinity. This is very much the same thing, but in reverse, right? Because they're not going to be making these anymore. So we've officially gone into that realm, into that world of potentially where things are going to be out of print and they're going to sunset things. From a collector's perspective, that's a beautiful thing because it does add another layer to the collectability market. You think about Pokemon, obviously, anytime anything goes out of print, it starts to hockey stick, right? Just because, it's a commodity that people want to get their hands on, and especially when people know that it's not going to be like a 151 or something like that they are going to reprint. From there, you do see someone say like, wow, like this is now a moment for me to grab this, before it's too late. This is definitely one of those moments, y'all. So again, if you've been looking for a sign, I would pretty much take this as that sign. Again, doesn't mean like go get it today, go get it tomorrow. I mean, look, obviously it's going to take time for this to boil into the market. I have no doubt that we will do an episode about this, I don't know, weeks or even months into the future where we're like, hey, remember when we talked about there's going to be that hockey stick effect? I mean, obviously we will probably talk about that at some point, but just know that window is there, y'all. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of Collectors Market Watch, y'all. Be sure to go down, hit that subscribe button, like the video, go join the Discord. Link is in the description, as I said before. And until next time, we're eternally grateful for you all. Peace out.